Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be going over a day in the life with my 11-inch iPad Pro. I feel like there are a lot of videos on YouTube which go over the 12.9-inch model, but there aren't a lot of videos that cover what life is like using the smaller 11-inch variant. And so that's what I want to do in today's video, just to give you a feel for the kinds of workflows that this machine is capable of, in case you're contemplating picking one up. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So I usually start off my days by enjoying my morning coffee with my breakfast. I'll take this time to catch up on emails using the iPad whilst listening to a podcast like the FT News Briefing or playing some music. Once I've finished my breakfast, I'll then quickly jot down a plan for what I need to get done in the day. I don't usually have a fancy way of organising my to-do list. I just create a quick note which I label plan for today, and I have a series of checklists that I want to get done along with when I'd like to complete them. Once I've written down my plan for the day, I'll head over to my desk and begin grinding. I find that I tend to experience my highest levels of concentrations in the morning, and so I strategically use this time to get any long intensive tasks done, or what Cal Newport calls deep work. And I'll do this for about 2 hours straight without any breaks in between. So today I'm reviewing a module in financial economics that I took earlier this term, and I'm going through each of the problem sets to make sure that I actually understand the content. And this is where the iPad really comes in handy, because I can simply copy a screenshot of the questions from my Mac and paste them onto the iPad using the Apple Continuity feature. I then write my solutions using the Apple Pencil on the iPad, and if you study any maths-based degree like maths or engineering or economics, or just a course which requires you to take a lot of handwritten notes as opposed to typed up ones, then the iPad really makes your life easier by enabling you to go completely paperless. Even if you're handed out physical notes during a class, you can always use the camera at the back of the iPad to scan those into your note-taking app of choice, which saves you from building up multiple binders of sheets that you need to organise at the end of the term, and it also saves your back a bunch of pain having to carry around all those binders. Once I've gotten my deep work done, I'll get dressed to head over to my university gym. Since we've just finished term and everyone has gone home for the holidays, campus is going to be pretty quiet, and so I decide that I'm going to get some work done at the Cafe Nero once I finish my work. So I make sure to take my iPad with me. And again, this is one of those things that I love about the smaller 11-inch iPad. It's the fact that it's just so easy to throw away in your backpack whenever you're leaving the house or on the go. In any case, I head over to the gym around 11 o'clock. I work out for an hour, and in total, if I include the commute time and the time that it takes me to get dressed and shower, I spend about 2 hours at the gym. So my workout is now done, and I can sit down to get some work done at one of our campus coffee shops. I'm doing all of my research in Safari, and then on the right hand side I'll have a split screen open with the Apple Notes app, whilst I've got a slide over screen playing some music as well. Admittedly, having just an 11-inch screen can feel a bit limiting in cases like this, and it's cases like this where I feel that having the larger 12.9-inch iPad Pro or my MacBook Air would be beneficial, but I think that the extra portability of the 11-inch variant makes that trade-off more than worth it for me. Generally, I try to use my iPad as a single-purpose device where I'm focusing on one thing at a time. I then decide that it's time to head back home. So I have a snack for an hour till about 3 o'clock, where I'm pretty much doing nothing. I'll watch some YouTube videos for inspiration, such as this video by Samuel Suresh about the power of Apple Keynote when it comes to graphic design. Once I've gotten bored of watching YouTube videos, I decide to play some GTA San Andreas. Unfortunately, as a PlayStation 4 user, I won't be able to play GTA 6 when it comes out, so I guess I'll just have to stick to the OG GTA bundle for the time being. The nice thing about this iPad being so portable is that it's very easy to use in tablet mode outside of the Magic Keyboard. So if I want to walk around whilst I watch my videos, I can do just that. If I want to game whilst holding the tablet, I can do just that. The downside, of course, is that compared to the 12.9-inch model, it is a lot easier to treat the smaller iPad as more of a content consumption device as opposed to a creation device, which means that I do regularly find myself getting tempted to just watch YouTube videos on this smaller inch model. Now, for me, that's not actually a bad thing because I want my iPad to be a hybrid between work and leisure. For me, my Mac is my main working device. Like, I'll never watch YouTube videos or movies or play games on that thing. Whereas my iPad for me is more of a casual device. But it may be different for you. Anyway, it's now 4 p.m. and I decide that it's actually time to start getting some work done again. So I head back upstairs to my room to begin scripting my next YouTube video on the iPad Pro using the Magic Keyboard. And this time I connect my iPad to my studio display via a single USB-C cable to activate Stage Manager on my monitor and take advantage of that extra screen real estate. This is actually one of my favorite new features in iPadOS because it enables me to turn this tiny 11-inch tablet into a giant 27-inch desktop experience. I can resize windows pretty easily, have both Safari and Notion open with my music playing in the background. You can actually have up to 4 windows open on your monitor and your iPad at the same time, which makes this a pretty powerful multitasking device. It enables me to get the best of both worlds. I can have the portability of the 11-inch iPad, but take advantage of the additional screen real estate that my monitor has to offer. That said, Stage Manager is definitely not without its flaws. For example, I'm not a fan of the fact that you have to hold Shift when you want to open a new window in the same stage, or else it will just open that window in a new stage. And it's also M-Series exclusive, so if you have a base model iPad or an older iPad Pro that doesn't have an M1 or M2 chip, the monitor will simply mirror your display. But having said that, it's still a novel experience. And that makes doing simple tasks like writing and planning a lot more enjoyable than on my Mac. It's not necessarily better than the Mac. In fact, in most aspects, it's probably worse. But it's different, which is quite fun. In any case, I spend the next hour typing away on the 11-inch Magic Keyboard. I remember when I first purchased this keyboard case, I honestly thought that I was going to struggle using the smaller keys because I have fairly large hands and thankfully I've not had any major troubles using it. After an hour of doing some YouTube work, I get bored and I decide that I also need a change of scenery. So I head downstairs with my M1 MacBook Air and the iPad to begin taking some notes for a behavioural economics module I'm taking. And because this module involves reading a lot of papers, the iPad really comes in handy because I can load up the relevant papers on my iPad whilst I take notes using my Mac. And throughout this session, I'm using the built-in universal control feature, which lets me use the keyboard and trackpad on my Mac to control my iPad. It's a feature I'm a really big fan of. Occasionally it does get a bit annoying if I'm trying to access something at the edge of my Mac screen and then the cursor suddenly ends up on the iPad. But in 95% of cases, it works perfectly if you want to use your iPad as sort of a second display. Once it hits 6 p.m, I head to the kitchen to make some food. And whilst the food is cooking, I'll have an episode of the Gary Neville podcast playing, where I spend the next 15 minutes regretting my decision to support Manchester United. As I'm eating, I'll also watch some YouTube videos about how to edit in Final Cut Pro. Once I've eaten, I then decide to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark on my iPad for about 2 hours. Halfway through, I decide to hook the iPad up to my external display again, so that I can watch the movie on the display whilst editing some photos for my next YouTube thumbnail on the iPad using the Apple Pencil. Once it hits 9 o'clock, I realise that it's time to begin winding down, since I do have an early start tomorrow. To wind down, I use the Kindle app on the iPad to read a book, before I then decide to head off to sleep. So that brings us to the end of my day in the life with the 11-inch iPad Pro. You'll have noticed that throughout most of the day, I was actually using my iPad more than any other device. And I think that goes to show just how capable the iPad is. Which of course brings up the age-old question, is the iPad a computer? Can it replace your computer? And I don't want this to turn into a Mac versus iPad video, but if I could choose just one device, either my Mac or my iPad, to keep with me all day, I would actually go with my Mac, simply because there are a lot of use cases like when I'm on a Zoom call or when I need to use Excel, where I'd rather just use the Mac because it feels like a more solid and stable platform. And I'd rather have that more capable, stable computer and not necessarily need it all the time than to need it in those 1% of situations, but not have it. But for 80% of other tasks like web surfing, content consumption, note taking, the iPad just offers a more novel and enjoyable experience than a laptop does. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people, including myself, gravitate towards the iPad because it's not necessarily superior at doing stuff. Like you can easily take notes on a Mac just fine, but the iPad is different, and that can make working on this device feel really enjoyable. Like, I low key enjoy sitting down on my table just to get work done on my iPad every day, which, if I'm trying to reduce the friction it takes between me sitting on the couch and getting work done, then I'm personally all for that. So, yeah, let me know what you think about the iPad in the comments down below. As always, if you found this content enjoyable or helpful, leave us a like. And if you'd like to see more stuff like this in the future, then hit subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.